Greetings, darknet activists. I am not Patrick Smith, and this is not Disenthrall. And today, I have with me special guest, Murdoch Pizgatti. Welcome to the show, Murdoch. He is...
Glad to be here.
He is co-founder of Don't Comply, an international freedom activist, currently relaxing, chillaxing in Belize under the palm trees there. So I wanted to tag Murdoch in on this conversation today because it's like a chain of events, right? So first we had a viewer submission asking us about kind of like the activism life balance question. And so we did a video recently called Activism Life Balance. You can check that out. I'll link it in the description. It was basically talking about how to balance life and family with the amount of activism. How much time do you put into activism? How much time do you put into fixing the world for your children and family? And the cost benefit of the risks involved with doing things that might piss off the bullies in government. And also we talked about the efficacy of the different types of activism, whereas, like, you know, participating in the Libertarian Party is probably the prime example of the least effective way to spend your time, the least useful way to make change in the world, is in terms of number of hours versus actual effect. And I also mentioned at one point in the video that, like, there is a line, though, where, like, you start going more and more rowdy away from the politically acceptable activism to where, you know, people with families and kids have to kind of draw the line and be like, whoa, that's kind of risky.
Sure.
So that's why I wanted to bring Murdoch on, because he's probably the most risque activist I'm aware of that I know. So I appreciate your time today.
Thank you. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, man. So let me just read this this follow-up viewer submission that somebody sent in after they watched the Activism Life Balance, and then we can talk through all sorts of interesting things today. I'm sure I might need my mask again. I'm currently listening to, so this is the submission. I'm currently listening to Activism Life Balance viewer submission. And Patrick, you mentioned that if you didn't have kids, that you'd be doing things differently from now. Is what you had in mind when you were considering what you'd be doing if you didn't have kids something you'd be open to elaborating on? No is a perfectly acceptable answer, by the way. Maybe it's something y'all could talk about in a future episode. That is, ideas of what people in different types of situations with different types of constraints could be doing to get us closer to a more free and voluntary world. I thought that was a fantastic question, but I mean, it's not necessarily easy to answer. So,
yeah.
Do you have any initial thoughts on that, I guess, first of all?
Yeah, you know, in your show, you kind of brought into the previous show that line that people draw with children, and you're using the children as the reason for only going up to a certain point and stopping. But I think we also have to think about, even with no children, there's still going to be a line to some degree of, like you say, risk versus reward, because at some point, if you get caught doing illegal things during civil disobedience and other type activities, you're going to spend the rest of the time in a little cage, and that's not as effective as not being in the cage. So there is that differentium between risk and reward and what you get out of it. If it is an arrest and a prison sentence that's worth it, that has enough force and motivation behind it to really wake people up, then maybe that's worth it. And then that's something where that line goes a little bit further, because you don't have children. You wouldn't want to be spending your life in a cage if you did have children you had to deal with.
Right. And so I was trying to think, okay, well, where's my line, and can I give an example? And the example I thought of was, if you look back on the channel, I'll find the video. I don't remember the title of it at this point. It was probably like 3D printed guns for the homeless or something. This was what I think is a fantastic idea that you had.
Arms for the armless.
Arms for the armless. Okay, cool. I'll find the video and link it in the description. But you came in, well, excuse me, somebody that looked like you and didn't quite sound like you came into the studio and talked about a plan. Huh? What'd you say?
One of my clones.
One of your clones. Exactly. There's a lot of those on Facebook now. Came on the show and talked about a plan to have people anywhere in the world 3D print, pistols, because that's a thing now. Gun control's over, in case anybody out there missed that. And I know, right? And mail the guns to you, which you would then go and distribute to the homeless.
Correct.
So
of course, this was started because in many towns, a lot of headlines showed where the police came and kicked people out of tents. They were cutting them out in the middle of blizzards in Colorado and other incidents around the country where this was kind of a problem.
Exactly. And so the point, I think, what I saw that idea for activism was trying to make is that, look, guns are for protecting you from bad guys, even if those bad guys happen to wear funny costumes and work for the government. And,
right.
Of course, like 3D printing guns is in a semi-gray area right now. Certainly mailing them to somebody, is probably still okay. Maybe probably not. I don't know. But distributing them to the homeless was certainly, I think, pretty illegal. And so there might have been ways to get around that. Let's just leave it at that. But I'm trying to give you an example of a bit of activism that I really wanted to be involved in because I thought it made a very important moral case, a moral point, that guns are to protect you from bad guys, and there are bad guys working for the government, and like the ones that cut people out of tents. But, I had that conversation with somebody that looked like you, and I was like, look, I can't, I've got this daughter stuff going on right now with her medical stuff. I've got a family. I cannot afford to be in a cage, even accidentally, even if the government gins up charges just to fuck with us. I cannot afford that. I have to be responsible to my family. And so I had to completely bow out of that, aside from just, interviewing that dude that looked like you. So that's kind of my example of like my line is like, I can't afford to be in a cage right now. But if I didn't have a family, I would have less of a fear of that, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, if I'm the only one I have to worry about, then if I do end up in a cage, which is really bad activism, I think activism that lands you in a cage is probably, maybe tell me what your thoughts are on this, but that sounds like bad activism because while you're, like you said, while you're in a cage, you can't do anything. And that reminds me of Kokesh's cocking a shotgun in DC, which landed him in a cage for a year. That whole year, he fell off the face of the planet and did no good for anybody. And how much freer are we because he did that?
Right.
What are your thoughts?
So I do believe sitting in a cage is rather pointless because it does keep you from doing other important things, other activism. But it can be done properly, and it can be done with enough force and motivation behind it and enough publicity that it actually makes a great point and gets people more motivated. Something like the Kokesh cocking the shotgun video was not really prepped well to be a piece that would allow that type of participation in the community with something that they could go and do to support it publicly and kind of raise awareness. I don't think there was really enough of an event around that. But I think that something like that could be used really well if done the right way. And but yeah, generally speaking, sitting in a cage is bad activism. There's a lot of stuff that you can do with more impact and more attention, more participation, and raise more awareness by not.
The activism you've taught me that really effective street activism is an art form, and there's ways that you have to do things to break the law on purpose in their face loudly enough with enough people involved or in certain ways as you sort of get away with it in the moment. I think maybe I described that well. I don't know. I'm still learning from you.
That's an angle that you can definitely take. There's different methods that we use depending on what the point is and what the response and action that we're trying to get. I mean, it's basic, propaganda. The way that all of your advertising companies work nowadays is, and as well as the governments, it's not about necessarily telling people to do something a certain way. It's creating the environment that elicits a response that you want. So people freely make that choice on their own.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I have a lot to learn in this area still. And I hope that we can maybe put together some kind of, I don't know, class or talk or something like that. That people, maybe even if it's a video series or something, where we can kind of get people the knowledge in your brain, because I think it's really useful knowledge. And it's cool and it's interesting. I'd like to hear your thoughts now, or maybe in a future video, about how you think somebody wanting to do what Kokesh did could have done it better, so as to not have been in a cage for a year afterwards. Because I really think there might have been ways to do it. Like if you got 200 people to do it with you, I think it would have been different.
Right. His was just. It seems that it was a very off the cuff response to the not getting the amount of people to come out and do the walk across the bridge event that he had planned and talked about. And I think with just, if he would have let it simmer a little bit longer. He's a smart person. He would have probably kind of thought through all of the issues with what he did.
Right, and he definitely had time to think through it later, which was unfortunate at the time. So I guess the next thing I want to ask you is, like, okay, so where's your line, Murdoch? Have you thought about your line? How do you determine, like, when you're thinking of all the different crazy things that you've thought of over the years to do, like, how do you filter that? What's your filter for that stuff?
It really depends on the cause. Different things, different aspects of our slavery hit me differently. Some things I can let slide to a degree. Some things I need to do some activism, raise some public awareness about. And other things I don't have a line, as it were.
Okay.
So really, I think it is all up to what right that is, and how that is interfering with my freedom. And so, yeah, I generally speaking, on things like if it was jury nullification or these other basic little rights that we help raise public awareness about, I think it's at public awareness. It's not getting arrested, even though I did dress up like a police officer and try to walk into their court during that, but it did raise some awareness.
Yep.
Only impersonating an officer a little bit.
Yeah. So, like, yeah, a little bit. If, like, well, I think a strategy video for how to do effective activism is probably not the purpose of this one. I think it might be just kind of talking about the lines, right?
And so, some of the other issues, whether, say, if it was if I had a child and CPS was coming to take them away, there's not a line there. I would go down in a blaze of glory, doing everything I could to prevent anyone from taking my child, and I would be dead or serving life in prison, probably dead.
Right.
Of course, first step would be I would try to remove myself from the threat and my child, and disappear to some other country with the child and see if I could live on my own. If they were still coming after me, then there would be a physical confrontation. So some things like that, there's really not a line, because it's that important. Other things, there are lines of, I'd rather not spend my life in a cage over A, B, C.
So now maybe we can illuminate the other side of the line. Can we talk about ideas that maybe have been had by people, obviously not on this call, that whoever it was that came up with them decided not to do? I think I've had a couple, or you can start. Which would you like? I guess the first couple that we should talk about
generally just either civil disobedience or things on the dark web. Whereas if it was if you were so inclined, there's certain ways that you would take the bad actors and bring them out to the forefront and put them on maybe, point a way to point fingers at people.
Right. So I guess we're trying to give ideas of things that like I cannot do currently based on my current restraints and risk thresholds, risk threat models, whatever you want to call it. Right. It would be nice to have, like, someone had this idea a while back, to have a website that lists evil, violent thug cops that have done evil and gotten away with it for whatever reason. The blue line protected them or whatever. Just a listing, just like a kind of a reputation score for bad cops.
Sure.
Whether it be on the public internet, you might get sued, you might have legal issues in that way, I'm not sure. Or, maybe the dark net, maybe on Tor or something like that.
Maybe so. So I think, well, let's start with, if we're talking about doxing and talking about releasing personal information of people, then I think we first should notate that the people that are out there that are theoretically the ones that do this stuff are, I've gotten a couple contacts recently of people wanting me to release information, and on Don't Comply, we have been whistleblowers on a lot of big corruption issues. So I have people coming wanting me to release information on people quite often. The last few were petty little things about people saying things online. And this is what people are occupying their time with. It's not the people that are killing and murdering and dropping bombs on people and causing coups in other countries and all of these terrible, torturing people in prisons. And there's such a level of sociopaths that are out there that aren't even being talked about or anyone trying to bring to the light, that it's frustrating and pathetic and a waste of my time to deal with such petty stuff when such insanity is happening in the world.
Yeah, I was thinking like it might be nice to have like an app on your phone and you could just like really quickly get a map of your surrounding area and, are there any evil, violent people around you? And maybe look up faces just so that if you see them, you know who you're dealing with. This stuff comes with legal risks that I cannot currently stomach. The hospital stuff makes it crazy right now. So,
and we're talking about an app that I had been developing for a while, and it gave actual video proof evidence of what the person did, what their name was, and maybe generally where they hang out or where they might be socializing. And that's enough with little wanted flyers that talk about what they've done that could easily be printed out and put in those areas to really do I think how we were supposed to live as small communities, where we didn't necessarily have laws telling people how they should live when it comes to that, but more sort of you could get excommunicated from the community, where you would get pushed out. And that's how they did it, for centuries. You would get pushed out of the tribe and just forced to go live somewhere else because people didn't want to be around you. They didn't do commerce with you. They didn't want you next to them. And I think that is probably one of the most effective means of changing bad behavior.
Yeah, so I have a couple more examples. The biggest one being Ross Ulbricht that made the Silk Road. So creating something like that is right up my wheelhouse. It's definitely inside of my skill set. I would, if I had had that idea and didn't have a family, there is a near certainty that I would have been working on something like that. I think it was one of the most world-changing forms of activism in the history of the human species. Free, for the first time ever, free, unregulated trade between humans
worldwide.
Amazing. I can't and that was obviously extremely risky. He's now lost his entire life over it. And let's see what else. So Cody Wilson literally changed the entire course of the human species by eliminating gun control, by making it possible for anyone in the world to print a gun in their house without anybody's permission or regulation. And, you know, he's suffering because of that as well. In this recent legal fiasco that I in no way think was accidental. And I'm not well, I keep saying I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but more and more lately, I'm getting there.
Yeah. Well, you know, if we could raise enough money, I think we could probably hire a third world cartel to break Ross out of prison. I don't think it should be that hard.
See, at running that campaign, that would be another form of very moral, ethical activism to free a political prisoner. But that is something that I cannot allow myself to be involved in right now. So just talking around in this space hopefully gives people an idea of the other. I hope this is helping. So, like, what's another one? You're just saying, like, Cody Wilson. I mean, that's certainly something I would have loved to have helped. I'm way into 3D printing. I have 3D modeling experience. I love me some guns. I could have been there doing that.
Right. So,
then you have.
I mean, if we just want to list them, you know, you can go down the list of in civil disobedience and pick all of the ignorant laws and all of the immoral laws that are other people claiming authority over your body. And I mean, whether it's something as simple as seatbelt laws, you can do these in mass groups that cause public awareness about why it's a problem and why controlling other people can be bad. All of these things have that risk that may be over the line of people like yourself that have children that don't want to end up in a cage because they get, you know, in these types of civil disobedience activism events, people can get arrested. It can lead to that. It can lead to years of court cases of them just being a pain. And some of the people that we've had arrested during our events went on for years with them delaying it and just keeping them caught up in the court system, which is just kind of one of their little like easy ways to punish you without ever putting you in jail. And but you know, like I said, you know, depending on how you set it up and how you get arrested, even during these things, really can amplify the effect. When we had started the open carry stuff, and we were down in Austin on a Veterans Day, we had it set up to where we got 3 people arrested pretty much on purpose one day for the media attention, for the publicity of it. And we had a preacher, a veteran, and a quadriplegic all arrested at the same time at the state capitol for doing activism, for having the right to defend themselves. And this type of thing causes headlines. It causes people to stop what they're doing and look at the problem. And these kind of things can help really raise awareness for whatever cause it is that you have. But it has to be kind of primed and set and done on purpose.
And done in the correct way, like you're saying. So like feed the need. If it was just you out there feeding the homeless, you very well might get messed with. But when it's 100 of us, that's different. It's just, it puts it in a different ball game from a media perspective. They have to think about the optics of what they're doing. You know, all kinds of different things. The other example that's contemporary, it's happening right now, is Austin Jones with Atlas Arms. I don't know if you've heard about this guy yet. Have you heard about the Dagny Dagger?
No.
So this guy seems to be like following right in the footsteps of Cody Wilson. He is designing a armor penetrating round that evades the laws banning that right now, that you'll be able to use the ghost gunner to finish at your house. So he's making a new type of metal that you can, order a piece of and then stick it in your ghost gunner with a special ghost, 3D print. Ghost gunner's a machine that carves out lowers from chunks of aluminum, so you can basically manufacture your own AR-15s at your house. And so it's so you can use the Ghost Gunner to carve out this new type of armor penetrating ammunition at home. No regulation, no problems, nothing like that. What'd you say?
At your place? So you have one of those Ghost Gunners at your place?
I believe I purchased one a while back. It might be a very special one. It's very special for me to have in the house anyway. Yeah.
I'm waiting for that show still. I haven't seen you fire it up online yet. Live for everybody.
I have two lowers, 80% lowers that I bought, and they're sitting here. I keep reaching out to Defense Distributed, trying to get somebody to kind of help me get set up and to run through it, because I don't want to just waste my lowers. I can't afford to buy any more right now. So I'm trying to wait until I can get somebody, but yeah, we can talk about that soon. Yeah, so I'm just saying, like, this Austin Jones guy making this armor penetrating armor, you don't think he's going to get blowback? That's a super risky form of activism. And I appreciate what he's doing, right?
Absolutely. And some people take a lot more risk than others, and it's really just a calling. It's a personal thing. It's something that you just feel. And like I say, with certain causes, there's not a line for some people, and some people there is, and that's okay. It's not something to look down upon when someone is for something, but they're not going to risk their entire life, family, fortune, and treasure over. You can't fault the person, or I don't. I believe that, we're all here for a reason, and we all have really good tools that can be used the proper way. And sometimes it's more effective than just brute force. I mean, brute force is good for some situations, but it's not for all.
Yeah, and I'm realizing as we talk through this, like, I was hoping to, like, provide people a list of risky ass activism that they could go and do if they were so inclined. I can't really do that because it's really complicated, and it's not necessarily easy. You just have to kind of make constant risk reward judgments for yourself and find what you're motivated to do in the world. And then if you find something that's a little bit risky, you want to make sure that you take your time and you have a plan, and you talk to people like Murdoch here that are knowledgeable in how to do such things, to do it right and to do it as smart as possible, and to make sure that you're okay with the repercussions. It's a spectrum, I guess is what I'm saying. And I don't have a list for you. I'm sorry.
Some of the most risque things that we have done were not just off the cuff, quick events that we just decided one evening to do, and the next day went and did them. We went through all of the outcomes for weeks, months, sometimes, and fixed all of those problems of how it would be seen in the news, in the media, and what stories we've got picked at, all of the setups, all of the outcomes and backup plans for them. Like when we did the mock mass shooting on UT campus, we had the world's media standing there, the whole police force, all watching us, and we had thousands of anti-protesters there to drown out our message, to make it where we couldn't perform the event that we wanted. But unbeknownst to them, we had a secondary plan. We had a different location. We lost everybody and went and did the whole thing 2 blocks away where nobody knew, and proved our point that we were trying to make all the better by showing that it took, even though they were looking for us, it took the police 15 minutes to even find us. And it took all of this kind of not knowing where it happens.
You're talking about the mock mass shooting on the college campus, right?
Yeah. And so we devised it in a way that we were able to get our message out and prove the points that we were trying to make in actual physical manner, where the entire police department knew exactly what we looked like, were looking for us, and couldn't find us 2 blocks away.
All of your events are genius. Like, every time you have an amazing plan, you guys don't comply. I know it's not just you. You're the most visible one, so I always think of it as you. But there's always a twist. Like, what'd you say?
I said it couldn't be done without all the other people involved.
Certainly. And there are really smart guys working behind you as well. I was just thinking like the Katy Trail event. You know, it was this intense thing. People are getting raped on this trail and they're trying to ban guns from it. So we're going to have an open carry event where we get a bunch of people to go carry assault rifles on this walking trail in Dallas. Oh, but we're going to do it wearing 80s workout gear and make it like a funny thing. It's just genius.
Because the media starts priming the event in a certain manner, in a certain fashion, and they're going to go out there to scare people. That's the reason that they're coming out there, is to intimidate the other citizens of the town, and they start this dialogue before the event happens, leading up to it. And so you take that and you taekwondo it and take it and pull their energy and spin it into something that leaves them completely wordless. You know, they can't say anything at that point when we come out looking ridiculous.
I wish I had a picture
scaring
of that.
People.
The video, there's a video of it on this channel. The video is really cool if you go watch it. Katy Trail, Open Carry Katy Trail March. It's the first time I met Murdoch and a lot of his friends and compatriots. And I didn't know what to think, but I loved what I saw. It was awesome. So go check that out. Do you have any final thoughts? Because I think we've covered it just about as well as we can in kind of a general video to everyone.
Well, I'd say go as far as you are willing to, but think through all of the outcomes, the possible outcomes, and be okay with all of them. You can pad yourself in many ways to prevent some things from happening, but you know, just always work within your comfort level and find other people that are there that are smart too, and talk through all of the outcomes and talk through the effects of it and how you can control those and help kind of direct not only the media's response, but the public and even our community's response, and how it can help build and create something that helps make awareness of the issue and hopefully solves it. And I would suggest for most people that I don't think there's enough effort being focused on the bad actors and neutralizing them.
I agree with you. The thing, and for my closing, I'll say that I'll say the same thing I said at the end of the last video. Make sure that in addition to everything else that you're thinking about, make sure that you have weighed a cost benefit. Make sure that what you're going to get out of the event is worth the time, the resources and money, and the risk that goes into it. And so on one end of the spectrum, you have Libertarian Party political activism, where you invest like 9 months of your time promoting candidates, thinking about candidates, deciding which one you want, going to conventions, going to county meetings and voting at, you know, all these different levels, voting on this, voting on that, worrying about who has the chair. Anyway, I'm not going to go into the whole thing. Just, I'm still a little raw from it all. But on that side, you know, the time is the cost, less so the money and less so the risk of danger to yourself or danger from a cage, and weigh that against what you get out of it at the end of all that effort. And on the other end of the spectrum, you kind of have maybe less time, definitely less time than party politics, but you have significantly higher risks. And so you have to also weigh that against what you're going to get out of it. If you're doing a website to list violent, evil cops that kill people, realize upfront what your risks are going to be, and then weigh that against what the effect you think that will have on the world is, and decide if it's worth it. That's kind of my spiel. That's my advice on it. So I guess with that, guys, Murdoch, if you have anything else.
That's it. Through counterintelligence, we should be able to find pinpoint the troublemakers and neutralize them.
Very good. So, dude, thanks for coming on for the call. I know you're trying to relax in Belize, so I'll let you get back to your hammock. And I appreciate everybody for watching. Check for links in the descriptions to all the videos we've mentioned. I will. Until next time.